Hey guys, welcome back to part 8 of this Beginner's Guide to HTML series. In this video, we are going to be talking about CSS and why it's used in HTML. If you haven't watched part 1 through 7, you should probably watch them before you watch this video. So now let's get started. So what is CSS? CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. CSS describes how HTML elements are to be displayed on screen, paper, or in other media. So CSS can describe things such as the color of an element or the background color of an element. Also things such as if an element has a border, the color of the border, if it has any padding, margin, so anything that has to do with the appearance of an element. So there are 3 ways we can add CSS to our HTML elements. The first way is inline, which you all are very familiar with because that's what we've been using in our past videos. So if we go back to the last challenge that I threw out, this is my GitHub page, and here I've posted the code from the last challenge. So I'll provide the link in the description, and you go to that link and you copy this. And then go to Sublime Text and create a new file, and then save this file as, I'll say, part8.html. So you can name it whatever, and then paste the code. So this is an example of inline CSS. So inside our h1 tag, we gave it an attribute, the style attribute, and over here we specified that the color of this element is going to be blue. Here's another example of an inline CSS. So over here inside the h2 tag, we have styled it, we have specified, we gave it a style attribute, and we have specified that the color we want in this subheading is gray. So basically this is how we use inline CSS. So for demonstrating internal and external CSS, what I'm going to do first is get rid of all our style attributes in our elements. So on the body and the headings. And also don't forget the paragraphs. So I just got rid of all the style attributes, and now if I open this document, you can see that nothing's centered anymore. These headings do not have a color anymore, neither does this paragraph. So we're going to fix it using internal CSS. Now, in order to use internal CSS, inside our head section, we're going to open a style tag. Yes, you've heard me right. It's a style tag and not an attribute. Okay, so open and close a style tag. So inside this style tag in our head section, we're going to mention how each element is to be displayed throughout this entire page. So suppose we want the h1 elements in this document to have a color of red. So what I'm going to do now is just type h1 and then open and close curly braces. And inside here, we're going to type color and then colon, and then let's say we want them to be blue. And then a semicolon. Save this document and go back to our page and reload, and as you can see, the h1 tag in our document is now in blue. So we had aligned everything inside our body to the center. So we can do that as well. To do that, we type body and then curly braces and text aligned, text dash align, center, semicolon. Save this and reload, and now everything is organized back to the center. Now let's change our h2 elements, and we want their colors to be red, okay? And save it and reload this page. Now notice something, both of our h2 tags in this document are now in red. So this is actually saving us a lot of time. If we had a lot of h2 elements in our document and we wanted all of them to look in a similar way. We don't need to go to each and every single element and give them a style attribute. Instead, we could just do this, and it's going to take care of it. So let's say we also want our H2 elements to have an Arial font. So after the semicolon, we're going to type font family, and let's say Arial, and then a semicolon. Don't forget that. Save this document and reload, and you can see both our H2 elements are now displayed in an Arial font. So now let's give our paragraph a color of gray. Reload, and here it is. So notice something over here. This color did not change. We specified over here that our paragraphs need to have a gray color, but it did not change over there, and that's because Inline CSS always gets first priority. So although we do have internal CSS specifying that paragraphs should be in gray, over here the text that's in blue that says color has its own inline style attribute, which says that the color needs to be purple. So inline CSS will always get first priority. Internal CSS gets our second priority, and then the last priority goes to external CSS, which we haven't looked at yet. So let's do that now. So in order to create an external CSS file, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new file, and we're going to save this file, and we're going to name it style, and this is very important. The extension at the end needs to be .css, okay? So you can name it whatever you want. I'm naming it style, but do not forget the extension, which is .css. Okay, save it. So now what we're going to do is get rid of our style tag from within the head section. And save this, and go back and reload. And now you can see all of our styling disappeared. So now what we're going to do is go back to our style.css. And over here, we're going to type in what we had in our head section. So first of all, type body, and then open and close the curly braces, and then hit the enter key. We had the text align property set to center. So we're going to do that. Text align center. We had our H1 elements have a red color, and we had our H2 elements have a blue color, and we wanted our H2 elements to have the font to have an Arial font. Also, we wanted our paragraphs to be gray. And save this document. And now if we go back to our page and reload, nothing changes. And that's because we have not linked the style sheet that we just created to our HTML document yet. So in order to do that, we go to our head section inside our HTML document. So what we're going to do now is provided a link to our CSS document. So we're going to say link, and then we need to use the relationship attribute to tell it that we're giving it a link to a style sheet. So as you can see, the relationship is a style sheet. And then we're going to type href, and then we're going to type in style.css. Now this is very important that the CSS document is in the same folder as your HTML document, okay? Otherwise this is not going to work. So make sure over here I have, inside my web tutorial series, I have the part 8 and style.css in the same folder. So make sure you do that. And over here, you just type in the name of the CSS file. So in my case, I call this style.css, so that's what it says over here. Now if you save this document and you go back to that page and reload, and look at that. Although none of the styling code is in our HTML document, we have provided a link to the external document that we created, and it in turn displays the document exactly the way we want it to. So in W3 schools, they talk about CSS fonts and CSS borders, padding, margin, and ID and class, but I'm going to skip all that because I will be creating a separate series on CSS in the future. So everything that has to do with CSS, I'll go over in detail in that series. But that's going to be it for this video. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more content. I'll see you guys in the next video.